Okay, welcome. This is going to be a in-depth full-length tutorial on how to create tool-assisted runs using Dolphin Emulator. So this is going to start you right from the beginning of it all, right from installing Dolphin and getting the game working and running in Dolphin, all the way to how to complete a tool-assisted run. From start to finish, it should be everything you need to get started. Now, if you already have Dolphin installed, and you have your game ISO in Dolphin working, installed and running as well, you can go ahead and skip right along to the Getting Started section of the video. This is the preparation section. You can move right along to the Getting Started section since you already have that ready to go. Now, this is assuming that you have Dolphin 4.0 installed. If you have a different version of Dolphin installed, that is really not going to work entirely too well for the version of the video we're doing here. It'll be a little similar, but there are some problems that you will encounter using the newer versions of Dolphin. So you want to keep that in mind. So, assuming you don't have those installed, assuming you know nothing, what you're going to want to do to get started, we'll dive right in, is go to dolphin-emu.org/download/. And you're going to get to a page that looks like this, and you will see here all the different versions of Dolphin that you could download. You want to scroll to the bottom, and you will see Dolphin 4.0. That is the one we want. And you select your operating system here. So it's going to download that into likely your downloads folder on your PC or Mac, whichever device you're using. This should work for both versions. So you'll want to go to whatever folder that Dolphin had downloaded to. Unzip it if you're on Windows. And you're going to want to get that program installed. It should be self-explanatory. If you do need to find some help installing it, if you run into an issue going through the installment process and following the steps, you can just go ahead and find this video here from the amazing tech reviewer, how to download and install Dolphin Emulator on PC for free. That should be very helpful. So mostly we're going to focus on creating the tool-assisted runs part in Dolphin in this video, rather than the potential complications you may have of the installment and download process. So again, if you have any trouble getting it installed and going, definitely reference that video. It should get you through most of the problems you might have. Of course, always, if you do have problems installing, just leave a comment in the descriptions and I'll do my best to get back to you. So moving forward, now the next thing you want to keep in mind is that you have Dolphin. And if you have Dolphin installed, you can go ahead and get it open. So we're going to open it and hop into it here. And when you open it, you probably won't see anything here like I have, but that's okay. That's because you need what's called an ISO. So, what is an ISO and how do I get it, you ask? That's a really good question. We're going to go through that. So, I don't know the complete technicalities of it, and I can't go super technical in depth for you, but basically if you have a GameCube disc with a game on it, there is a way to burn the information on that disc onto a computer, and then you have a copy of the information that was on that disc onto your computer, and Dolphin can run it for you as the GameCube would have. That could be close to technically correct, but that is the general gist of it. So anyway, I should mention there is a little bit of debate of the legality of doing this and distributing those files on the internet. So I am not condoning this or saying that it's technically legal, but if you want the ISO, you could go ahead and do this. You could. So, what you want to do is go to a Google search and type in Vim's Lair. You can see that at the top of the screen, VIMMS Lair. And that's going to bring you to this website. And what you want to go to is on the left-hand side, the vault. You get a screen that kind of looks like this, and then you're going to go to S over here. Because the game that we're focusing on in this tutorial is Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. But again, you could use this video to tool assist any game that you're interested in tool assisting. Obviously, if you have enough of an interest to tool assist a game, you have a pretty good understanding of what you're trying to do in the game that could be done a little bit better by a computer. So some of the technical knowledge in Sonic that I show here may not apply to your game in specific, but the way you go through programming it and doing the tool-assisted run will definitely apply. So we're going to choose Sonic Adventure 2 Battle here. Click on it, download it. It will take a little while. It's a lot of information. For me, ISOs take about 15 to 20 minutes. It may be a lot quicker for you. It may be a lot longer. Depends on your internet connection and your computer and stuff. So for me, it takes about 15 minutes, so don't be alarmed if it does take a little while. But once you get that downloaded, you're going to go into Dolphin here. And what you would do is click Open File with this folder with a little disk on it. And you're going to want to go to the location where that file is. So for me, I keep them on an external hard drive. And I keep them in a certain location on this hard drive where I have them organized. Probably a good idea to keep them all in the same place. But once you open the location of the folder that was downloaded to, Dolphin will recognize it as a file that it can open. So if you hover over my MX Superfly file that I have here, you can see that it is a disk image file, and that is something Dolphin recognizes. It can open that. So you would click here, and for me, it's going to start playing the game. But for you, it would likely show up in here. Another thing you could do is if you have the ISO file in the folder that it downloaded to lined up, you want to hover over it, make sure it is actually the disk image file once you get that extracted from probably the zipped folder that it came in. You can actually just drag it right into Dolphin as well. For me, it's going to start playing since I already have it in here, but it should show up in here for you. But another thing you'd want to keep in mind is that Dolphin also can load and use actual files from Gamecube. And you could transfer a memory card file from your memory card into Dolphin. You can do this using a Wii, or if you have a USB memory card for Gamecube, it's kind of hard to find, but if you do happen to have one, you could transfer your Gamecube files off of your Gamecube onto this USB device and into Dolphin. So there are ways to get your old files and older games and saves that you had on your Gamecube or your Wii into Dolphin, and it'll be that file, it'll be a real copy of it. So we're not going to go over how to do that in this tutorial, because it can definitely get a little involved when going from the Gamecube memory card to the computer and then load it into Dolphin. The easiest thing to do for whatever game you're working on is consider if you even need a save file with the game totally completed or things unlocked. In the tool-assisted run that we're going to be making here today in Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, we will be using a 180 emblem file with everything unlocked. But if you don't need certain things unlocked, and maybe you're going to create a tool-assisted run in the game right from the beginning, do a full story tool-assisted run, or even maybe a in-level tool-assisted run where the level's already unlocked and you can just go to it, or you don't have to unlock it. I mean, you're really just good to go. But most people in most games, you're probably going to want a file that has everything unlocked, or 100%, whatever you want to call it for your game, all stars collected, everything completed, whatever it may be. So we're going to want it's basically a save file of the game completed 100%. And there's a couple of ways that you can find one. A quick Google search will do you well. The type of file you're looking for should be a .gci file. It's basically a save file from Gamecube. Another thing you could do would be to check out Sonic Adventure 2 Battle Discord for this particular game. I know there's a handy link posted to it in the tasking section, so you can find it there. However, if you're looking to do a game other than Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, you could definitely check out the Discord for that particular game, and I'm sure if you pop a quick question in there, someone will be able to point you in the right direction if you can't find one. But there are a lot of resources online where you can find them, and a quick Google search will just get you there. So assuming you find that .gci file for everything 100%ed, and you are ready to go and you have it, here's how we access that through Dolphin. You're going to want to go to Tools right up top here, and then go into Mem Card Manager, GC. It's going to bring up this screen. Now, anytime you start a game in Dolphin, it should automatically, if it doesn't have one yet, create what's kind of a virtual memory card for you. And then within that virtual memory card, you're going to be adding the .gci files to it. And it's like having those files on that memory card like you would on a GameCube. So if you don't have a memory card in memory card slot A here, once again, you start any game, allow it to create a save file, and Dolphin will automatically create a memory card for you. So you would click Browse, and it's usually in Documents, Dolphin Emulator, GC folder, and you want to select Blank Card USA. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on blankcard.usa. And you can see it already has some files on it because I have save files on this memory card. But yours, likely for the first time, will come up blank. There won't be anything here. So you're going to want to import a GCI, which should be the appropriate file that you just downloaded. Well, appropriate save file for the game that you want to task that you just downloaded. And you're obviously going to want to open up the save location that you save that GCI to. So mine are on an external hard drive. And I have them under the Savers folder. And then here are all of my GCI files. I actually pulled them right from my GameCube memory card. But again, if you find one online and download it, it's essentially the same thing, so you can load that too. So I don't want to load any other different files than the one I have in the memory card right now that are working for me. But you would obviously want to load the file that you downloaded. So I'm going to cancel out of this. And once you do that, it should show up on the left here with the appropriate banner and the appropriate title of the game. So I'm going to close out of this. And that is going to be it for the preparation section. So we have all the tools necessary to go ahead and actually begin creating a tool-assisted run. Okay, so here we are getting started. We are actually now going to create a tool-assisted run right here in Dolphin. So you have graduated from the installation process, you got Dolphin installed, you got your right ISO running in Dolphin for the appropriate game that you want to task, and you found a save file somewhere that is going to work for you for what you're trying to do in TAS. So here we go. So again, today I said we're going to be focusing on Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. So assuming you know nothing, here's what we want to do. We want to get into Dolphin. So just load up Dolphin. And since you already got your ISO in there and your save file and things are good to go, the game should show up here. Now, a couple of things that we want to go over that need to be set up in Dolphin for the tool assisting process to really work fluently once we get into the emulator. So a couple of things, I won't go into the technicalities of why, just follow the steps. It'll make your life a lot easier once we are in the tool assisting environment. So the first thing you want to do is go to Options, Configure. It's going to load up this screen. For this particular instance of what we're doing here, you want all of these checked off. You always would want, when creating a tool-assisted run, dual core and idle skipping off. Everything else, just leave as default. Don't change any of the other settings in here. If you find yourself in a situation where you really need to for some particular reason, go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section. I would be interested to know what that was all about. Another thing that you're going to want to check in here is you're going to want to right-click on the game and go to Properties. And you want to make sure that dual core and idle skipping are checked off in this box that comes up here as well. So double check that. We'll close out of here. The next thing that we're going to go into here is going to be setting up how we want to use the computer's keyboard to put in our task inputs. You can do it with a controller as well, but we are not going to really be going through how to set up a GameCube controller to Dolphin in this tutorial. This is really focusing on tool-assisted runs. So we are going to completely be using the computer keyboard in this instance. So this is just going to be recommended for you. I highly recommend that you do the next step to stay in sync with me as you follow along in the actual tool assisting environment, and we go through using certain keys and buttons. So in order to stay in sync with what I'm going to be doing here, you should go ahead and program your setup the way I'm going to do here. So you're going to go up to Options, and we're going to go to Hotkey Settings. And this is really going to make your life a lot easier in the tool assisting environment, so you can have the right commands and functions that you need to do right on demand, hand-tailored to the specific way that you want it to be and that you're comfortable with. So I am going to be giving you the settings that I find easiest. You're more than welcome to put these settings to alternative keys, but like I said, if you're a beginner and you're just following along and you want to keep up with what I'm doing in the tool-assisted part of the video, once we graduate to that, you're going to want to keep these the same, so we're right in sync with one another. So the things that we want to be worried about is down here where it says frame advance. I like to set that to B. So if you just click in the box and you press that key on your keyboard, it's going to program that letter on your keyboard to this command. The frame advance is a very important command that's pretty much going to be used throughout the entire tool assisting section, and I'll probably refer to the B button or the frame advance quite often. So if I say B, I am referring to frame advance. And as it states in the description of this function, it literally advances the game one frame at a time. That is the only command that I am going to be concerned about in the general section. We're going to move over to the state save section, and this is really where it gets kind of tailored to you. So let's go over save states, because it's going to be a very important aspect when we get into the tool-assisted environment. So a save state is when you're doing your tool-assisted run, you create a point by pressing a specific key on the keyboard in the game that gets saved. And unless you overwrite that save state at any point, you can continuously go back to that point in the game. And all of the commands and everything you've put in your tool-assisted run will be saved up until that specific point. Okay, so we're going to be going into save states here, and this is really where it gets really hand-tailored to your specific needs and what you find convenient in the game. So once again, I recommend that you set this up the same way that I do here, so that as we go through the tasks, you get an idea of how this process kind of works. So once again, a save state is a point in the game where you specify a point in the game that becomes a save state, and then if you ever want to go back to that spot, you can load that save state. You'll go right back to where you saved it at, and in theory, you can continuously keep going back to that save state until you overwrite that save state. And you can see there are actually up to 10 save states that you can create in a game at a time. And I like to program slot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. to their corresponding number keys on the keyboard. So if you just click here on save state slot 1, you can press the 1 key and it'll automatically just load the key that you just pressed. And so you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way down the line and pop those in there. So then we also need to be able to access those save states throughout the game and the tasks if we want to go back to a specific point. You'll see when we start actually tool assisting a run in the game that we're going to have to go back quite often when things don't go the way we want them to. So for me, again, I highly recommend you do the same to stay on pace with that part of the video. But if you have an easier way, please feel free. But for me, I like to program the letter keys that are right below those number keys. So if I want to load save state 1, let's say, I look for the closest letter key to 1 on my keyboard, which is Q. And that's why I have it assigned to Q. And it continues all the way down. 2 would be W, 3 would be E, and so forth all the way through. And another thing why I like this method is if I want to go to, let's say, save slot 7, and I forget for whatever reason what the load is for 7, I can start by counting at the first letter on the top row, Q, all the way over 7 times. So it would be Q, W, E, R, T, Y, U, which would equal 7 if I started counting from Q. So that's just a really convenient way for me to remember my save state slots and how to load them quickly. So once you have that all set up, just going to click OK. And we are ready to move on to actually going right into programming a tool-assisted run. This is the funnest part. So we are finally ready to go. We are diving into creating the actual tool-assisted run. This is very exciting. So one thing to keep in mind when we're creating a tool-assisted run, you always want to start from the beginning of when the game loads. You can get what we call a lot of sync issues or desync, or a tool-assisted run becoming unsynced, which essentially ruins your entire effort in creating the run. So you want to avoid that at all costs. That kind of goes back to why we selected some of the options at the beginning when actually configuring Dolphin, and it definitely alludes to why you always want to start the run from the very beginning. So you're going to click on the game that you want to do. And one last thing that I want to point out that can be a little annoying for some people, if you go into Options, Configure, and you go to Audio, when creating a tool-assisted run, I prefer to completely mute the volume, because when you are frame advancing the game, you're getting little bits and pieces of audio on that frame in broken up segments, and it becomes quite irritating in my personal opinion. So I just mute that all out. I just mute the volume on the game so I can't hear that. On Windows, you also may encounter when you're frame advancing the game that it continuously makes that beeping noise or that alert noise on Windows when it's trying to notify you of something. That got very frustrating hearing that every time that I frame advanced the game. So you can go into your Windows settings, and it's somewhere buried deep within audio settings. You probably would have to Google this, but you can actually turn that off as well if that becomes an issue for you. So I fixed all those issues because they were kind of annoying nuances. If you have any questions about help getting that done, just go ahead and shoot them in the comments, and I'll try and get back to you. Okay, so you're going to want to go to Movie, and then Task Input. This brings up the Task toolbar. It's like your control station over here. And then we actually want to start the game. So we're going to do Movie, Start Recording Input. And now the game is going to load. A couple things to keep in mind. You can use your keyboard as your GameCube controller, or you can completely use the task controller. I'm going to use the keyboard to kind of skip the start screen here, and I'm going to use the arrow keys on the keyboard to select levels. My start button is M. Yours might be different. You can go to your controller settings and see what it's programmed to. So I'm pressing M here for start. And if that doesn't work, or you can't figure out which one is start, you can also just press start right here on the TAS controller. So you see it loads that. You can press A button, loads your memory card, and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and select my file that I have here. Okay, and we're going to go into the stage select and select which stage that I want to select. My Dolphin's running very choppy because I have this screen capture program running at the same time as Dolphin. So it's doesn't like that, but yours should be running more fluently. And let's just select any level. We're going to use Weapons Bed today as an example. So that's the latest one I've been doing. So we're going to go into Weapons Bed. And at this point, as the level's loading, you want to press B, as I mentioned before, or your Frame in Advance button. That's going to freeze the game. Okay, so we've selected the level that we want to do. If you're using a different game, obviously when you go into your level and just as it's loading, you want to press the Frame in Advance button, freezes the level, because right at the beginning of the level, what I recommend is that we're going to create a bunch of save states, just a nice clean slate. So you can hold B to slowly advance the game. You don't have to keep clicking it. You can hold it. The game will run a little choppy, and it runs very slowly. So this is Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. What we're concerned about is speed. Getting to the goal ring, getting to the end of the level as quickly as humanly possible. And the most effective way to do that. So in this level, what you want to consider is how to get to the point that you're going to the quickest. So before the timer even starts, we'll let it go down a little more. I'm pressing B, the Frame in Advance. I'm going to press 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on my keyboard. And then the next time you advance the frame, you're going to see all these yellow things pop up on here that have confirmed that you've created your save states. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see all the save states that I just made. That is Dolphin telling you that it was successful in creating that save state. So I have a bunch of save states. So at any point, if I screw something up, I can just go back to the beginning of the level and start over without having any consequences of that. So this is your controller button here on the left. You can think of that as the joystick on the GameCube controller. And then over here on the right, we have the C-stick, which we're not going to be really using in this task, but that would be for your C-stick commands over here. You have all the buttons that would correspond to what is on a GameCube controller, and this would be the D-pad. So you have only those 4 directions. Your shoulder buttons, this is your L button over here, and this is your R button over here. These numbers here correspond to the value of the position of the button. So the joystick, you have a x-axis here, y-axis here. It's kind of like that. It's telling you its position on that axis. And then the two of them combined gives actually the final direction. So you can type in values here if you know the precise 2 coordinate values that you want the joystick to be. Or you can kind of just fiddle around with it by clicking and dragging it to get it to the right position. So within starting this level, I'm going to frame advance a little bit. And at the beginning of Weapons Bed, there's a small moving cart thing, or whatever it may be, to your right that you want to get around. And you want to kind of fall off this runway for the least amount of time as possible. So what I've seen so far is the most effective way to do that is to be holding the right angle. Just get to the end of this runway here, to that cart. And you want to be at the right angle that, well, I'll show you. You want to be at the right angle where you can get around it very quickly. So we're frame advancing here. You can see that the timer is now running. It does skip certain values. Be aware, there's nothing wrong with your game. Because of the 60 frames per second rate, the game can't actually display 100 milliseconds in each second. Okay, so this is just kind of a guess as far as the angle of what this needs to be to a specific input that will hopefully get me to where I need to go. You're going to see in a little bit as I frame advance, there's a little cart thing that I need to get around on the right-hand side. And I'm trying to find the right angle that kind of lines me up with that in the best way possible. So I also want to clear these robots out of the way so I can get right there where that cart is. I want to get right there, and I want to find the most precise angle to get to that point. So remember, we have all of our save states at the beginning of the level, and I'm kind of just spamming the frame advance button B and the actual B button on the TAS input controller here. Just clicking it on and off to shoot these bullets really quick. Now right here, I can see my angle is kind of straying it to the right. So I'm going to correct the controller input there to try and get a little more lined up with this yellow line. It's always good to find reference points in here to kind of identify where you need to be at certain points. Okay, so you can see that took a little bit, a couple minutes. So at this point, to make my life easier, if things don't go well when I get up to this cart, I want to kind of start from right about here rather than do the whole beginning again, because that's very tedious. This is already tedious enough. We want to make this a little simpler. So I'm going to press 2 on the keyboard and frame advance once, and you can see I got a save state there now. So if things don't go well as I continue frame advancing forward, I can always go back to that spot and try this again. And I am slowly holding the blue knob on the control stick and correcting my direction as we go along. So as you can see, I angled that so I just go around this cart, and I want to get back on top of this surface as quickly as possible, because in this game the character actually moves a little faster on that surface rather than the lower surface, which ultimately gets us to the goal ring quicker. And you may think that small details like that don't matter too much, but they do add up over the course of a level to sometimes the extreme of seconds. So I want to not hit this gate, but kind of stay on this upper level as well. So it's very close right here. I'm a little nervous about it per se, so I'm going to press the 3 button and create another save state here. I just pressed 3. And I'm going to start aiming a little more right, just in case I do hit that. A little minor correction. And that's what you can do with TAS. You can do little corrections like that. You can see I just snuck right around that. So I'm frame advancing forward still. I didn't need to use that save state back there, but it was nice to have in case I did need it. Right here, it's a pretty straightforward shot. Now, the thing about this Sonic game, and probably some other Sonic games in 3D, is your direction is kind of dependent on the orientation of the camera as well. So sometimes straight on this joystick on the left here is not really straight. You can see right now the camera is starting to turn a little bit, and I have to continuously correct my direction because of that, or else I'm not going to be going the right way. I'm trying to ride this yellow line on the right here, and it's actually a little challenging because the camera is changing on me. So it looks like I'm in the clear here. I didn't hit anything. That was very smooth. I really don't need my last save state because I did that section pretty well. So I'm going to press 3. Overwrite it. If you want to play it safe, you could use 4. Keep it there just in case. And I'm going to continue along. Okay, so if you look at the timer in the top left, you can see we're at, I'm going to stop right when I line up with this G gate here. I'm looking at the shadows to see if they match up. So I know I'm pretty much right about at this G gate here now. You can see the timer is 5:42. So you may be wondering, well, is that a good time or not? I mean, how do I have a frame of reference to know if what I'm doing is actually quick? Because just because you have the power of a computer to aid your movement and do exactly what you want, it doesn't necessarily mean you're doing it any better than a human could, per se. So a good reference point, at least in the circumstance of this game, is to look at some world record runs and compare at very specific and accurate reference points. You want to make sure that it's accurate and that it's a really good basis of where you can compare times. So we're at 5:42. For reference, I've pulled up a what used to be a world record run of this level in this game from Chain Chump very good mech runner in this game. Well, overall runner, actually. He's very good. And you can see, when his shadow is lining up with this G-gate, that he's exactly right at 542. So I can say it is at least on what could be a world record pace at the moment. And through experience of me tassing this level, the beginning of the level is pretty consistent, whether it's human or TAS, as far as how quickly it can be done. Unless someone discovers a quicker way to do it, it's not super complicated for a human to do the beginning of the level. So I know I'm right about where I should be. If I wasn't, I could always use a save state and go back and do it over and over until I get it to a point where it's faster than what I've seen a human do, or when it's right about on pace of the fastest I've seen a human do it. Alright, so we're going to keep chugging along here. I'm going to save state that maybe 3. I kind of like to keep the save states organized in correspondence to their progress through the level itself. So we got that saved. We're going to move along. And remember, I said you want to think of straight lines as the most optimal movement from one point to another in this game. But sometimes there are variables that affect whether or not you can really move in a straight line perfectly from where you're trying to get to from one point to another. So like right now, I am coming up to this gate. And I definitely don't want to clip this gate here, but I want to get as close to it as possible. So right here is where I feel is a safe point to create a save state. I'm going to use 4 just in case it turns out not to be a good place to put a save state. So I'm pressing 4, and then B to frame advance and save it. So I can go back if need be. I'm gonna just try and just sneak right around this gate here. I want to maintain my speed, which you kind of have to get a knack for seeing in Dolphin while frame advancing, at least with the mech level. Sometimes you can be tricked by what it looks like frame by frame, because it looks like you don't lose any speed, but when you play it back you realize that you did actually slow down a little bit. But I made it right around that gate without much trouble. Again, frame by frame, putting in the angle of the control stick to get around that nicely. So that went well. I'm going to overwrite the last save state 4 because I didn't perceive anything really going too wrong with that. That's for time. If I were doing this purely perfect, the best I could try and get it to be, I would probably check that. But for tutorial purposes, we're going to move along. And the next thing I'm going to try and do is a little bit of a tricky move. It's hard for a human to do because it has to be done very precisely. However, with the power of TAS, you can see how quickly it takes us to do it. So I'm aiming, trying to line up Eggman's head here with this hole in the fence here. Seems a little silly, but good reference points save you a lot of time and going back and doing things over. I'm also looking at this line on the level over here. It's just part of the aircraft carrier surface. Now I'm going to try and initiate what we call a pause hover in Sonic Adventure 2 battle. It's kind of a broken aspect of the game that allows you to get a little more height out of this robot mechanism here. I'm sure in other games that you're tool assisting you have similar maneuvers and things that the programmers of the game may not have intended you to do, but have been discovered over time. So again, I'm crawling up to this line, and now that I'm kind of close to it, I'm going to press 5 and create a new save state. Just in case, you know, this doesn't go right. It's a really nice spot to go back to. So something about this Sonic game, you want to press A and start together to start that maneuver I was referring to. It's called a pause hover. But you have to be careful in this game because it actually takes 3 frames for the pause screen to come up. Everything else that I've seen, as far as the button presses, happen in the next frame after you check it off. But the pause menu takes 3 frames, so just be aware of that. So we pressed A and start together. The menu has come up. And I'm going to advance 1 frame, press B, to get a little break in there. And I'm going to press the start button, advance 1 frame, just press B, and then I'm going to check off A and keep holding A, and you'll see what happens here. See that the machine has started to hover upwards, and you can also note on the left I am slowly correcting the joystick angle to try and stay on line with this gray pole right here. So that's what I'm aiming for. There's something about that spot on this gate, some property, that allows you to have just enough height, if you do it right, to clip right over it. And let's see if we make it or not. We did. Okay. So, in this situation, since we just pulled off what is kind of a complicated maneuver, pretty precise, not as precise as this game gets, but pretty precise, I'm going to save that. I'm going to press 5. I didn't perceive anything slow about that. And I'm also going to uncheck the A button because I don't need to be hovering anymore. The sooner my feet touch the ground, the sooner I can start running and save some speed. So, moving along, I'm slowly frame advancing. Now just because we made it over this railing, that's kind of part 1 of this process. Now we have to make sure that we're far enough off to the right to not phase through this railing right here. I'm pressing B, frame advancing. Let's see if it happens just to show you. Looks like I've made it over. And that time it phased right through, so it didn't happen that time. But for demonstration purposes, let's say that didn't work out too well. I could just press T, which is right below my 5 button, and then B, and I'm right back to the same spot. So even if that didn't go well, I could have gone back and fixed that. So I'm going to press B and frame advance forward. That angle that I had there was pretty good. Kind of just clips me right onto this platform here. And we're going to continue frame advancing. Now again, you want to think of things in straight lines, and the fastest way that we've seen to be able to do this part of the level is kind of go right to the edge of this platform, hover over to this kind of traffic light looking thing here. We're going to try and land on that. So it's not as precise as the previous part, but right when I get to the end of this platform, I'm definitely going to want to create a save state because it could go wrong. So it looks like we just got about a 9:47 first checkpoint. That's right about where it should be. It could actually be a little faster. I've seen it done faster by real people, but only by a couple frames. So it's not a huge concern for me in this tutorial demonstration purpose, but if you're a perfectionist and you want to go back and run that back and get it down to a point where you've never seen it done faster, absolutely. That is the whole point of doing this. So we're going to move forward a little bit. And I'm kind of right on the edge of the platform here, so I'm going to save that. I'm going to save it as 5. I don't need that previous save state. I like to be kind of, conservative with my save states. So I am going to get as close as I can to the edge of this platform, and for 1 frame, just check off A. That's going to initiate the smallest jump I can do, because I do need the height for the jump to make it on top of this. But I don't need a lot of height. I'm going to try and land right on top of it. I'm going to check off A again, kind of at the peak of the jump. And we're going to start hovering. And I'm going to kind of correct my angle towards this thing a little bit. And I'm going to hold B at certain parts and kind of crawl my way forward. So I'm tapping B right now, the frame advance button. And I am at points kind of holding it down a little bit to speed things up. And I'm trying to land right on top of this thing. I'm a little off to the right, but I still might be able to land on it. And right when I'm over top of it here, I'm going to uncheck A to land right on top of it, hopefully. Let's see what happens. Okay, so you can see that I missed it. But if you were wise with your save states, and you were aware of where you were in the level, you can just go back. So I know I saved that as 5. I'm going to press T and then B. And now I can just try it again. So this time I know I need to be a little further to the left. So I'm going to press A for 1 frame. And once again start hovering. And beeline it towards this thing. But we're going to be a little more knowledgeable this time of where we need to be. And try and land on it a little further to the left. I'm just very minor corrections to the joystick here. Okay, so definitely going to make it this time. And I'm going to save that as 6, just in case for some crazy reason I don't make it, I can still go back. And now I'm going to uncheck the A button to just kind of plop down on top of this. And you can see I landed right on it. I'm going to save that as 6 again, because it's a little more closer to the point where I want to be. And here, I'm going to initiate another pause hover. So I'm checking off A and start together. Again, this is a Sonic game thing going on right here. I'm putting a frame in between that. I'm pressing start. And now I'm pressing A. You can see I just got a really good amount of height off of that. And I'm going to press B to shoot the laser. And it's kind of lined up exactly with where I want to go. I'm trying to go to the right of this bridge right here, in this gap that's right over there. So what's tricky about this part is, I'm going to turn the laser off, uncheck B. The camera is completely not in your favor here, and this would be quite a difficult section to do for a real person. It's definitely possible if you have a very good player who has practiced this, but you're essentially coming into this maneuver blind. And that is why I'm going to be very careful about where I create my save states. I know my last one was 6. And I know I still have one at the beginning of the level at 1, but I've been pretty happy with everything that's going on at this point. And this is definitely your own type of personal judgment call at this point. But I'm going to overwrite that because I don't foresee myself having any reason to go all the way back to the beginning of the level. And I'm going to do that right about now. You can see it popped up there. So now I know that I won't have to go all the way back to the top of that traffic signal light thing to start this whole process again, because this is a really big gap that you got to cover here. I know I'm a lot closer now with that one save state. And I'm just tapping B along my way. I don't really want to hold B at this point because where you come in is very precise as far as how you need to line this up. So I'm just tapping it along. And what I'm looking for is the first couple of frames where I start to see that platform that was on our left before come in. And that's my reference point. And again, this is one of those things in the game where you need to kind of have played the game and have knowledge of it to know exactly what you need to do. So you can see I'm completely off here. That's okay. I'm going to go back to that save state I made. Press QB. So now we know we need to correct that up to the left a little bit more. And this is where you can get a little more lazy and just hold B with that new angle that you've selected coming in. And see if it just lines up a little better for you. So let's see. Well, this is very close, but it probably won't work because there is a set of boxes here that needs to be broken. You're fighting the camera, so I'm adjusting this joystick to the left very aggressively as the camera rotates around me to maintain the exact path that I want to take to these boxes. I will save this as 2, just in case this actually could work from here. And I'm going to pretty much need the exact frame to shoot this cannon to break these boxes at the right time. So you can see that I got those boxes to break just by going in right at the correct angle there. That is exactly what you want. It took a couple tries, you see. It's not always as easy as you think just because you can do exactly what you need to do via computer. It still takes a little bit of work. So that was good. I'm going to save that as 3. And we're going to move along here. So at this point, if I was doing a highly optimized tool-assisted run, I would probably compare where the run is at compared to the fastest I've seen a human do it. and I would see where I was at. And if I was a little off pace, I would have to go back and analyze and see where time was lost. But I'm going to move along here just for demonstration purposes. And we're going to get a little into some of the things that TAS can do, where you can test if certain things may be faster or not. So this is a really good example. This was an idea. I'm just frame advancing along here and correcting to get to these springs. This was an idea I wanted to test to see if this particular route was faster than another one. And I'm going to show you how you can pretty accurately determine which one would be faster or not. So normally, the way, if you were doing an in-level speed run of this level, normally you'd kind of want to keep it straight here. And if you're going for the ultimate strategy for this level, not story mode, a in-level speed run mode, you want to pop that balloon, break those boxes, and continue forward. Here, though, I am going to test a new strategy. Remember, we still have that save state back there, so even if this new strategy doesn't prove to be faster, we can just go back and program in the standard way that we know is the fastest that has been found so far. So I am going to try and land on this gate over here to the right. I'm frame advancing along, and when I get kind of level with this yellow part at the top, I'm going to check off A to begin hovering. Maybe not yet. That's good. Doesn't need to be perfect for these purposes. And I'm going to try and just land right on that while going straight without losing a lot of speed. That's pretty good. So I'm going to save that as 5. And we can take it from here. See, I'm moving along. I am frame advancing, slightly adjusting the control stick as I go to stay on top of this thing because it's pretty narrow. And what I was thinking, well, maybe we can make it to this, looks like a security camera pole with a sign on top of it. Maybe we can land on top of that and skip part of the level. So it's worth checking out, and it's worth exploring. So I'm going to frame advance till I get to the very edge of this platform. I don't want to create a save state. I have one pretty close to this because I want to try a few different ways to get to this thing to see if any of them will work. So I'm going to frame advance forward, and as soon as I see this machine start falling, I'm going to check off A to begin hovering. This would be the fastest way to get on top of this thing without having to jump or do a pause hover. And again, this is one of those big gaps where you can be a little lazy and hold B. Just watch your angle. And I'm going to see if I can just hover right over to this thing. You can see we really don't have enough height at all. We're going to crash into this robot, and there's going to be a problem. So that didn't work. But that's not to say it won't work doing a different method. So let's go back to that spot. So here we are. We've rewound the clock a little bit. And we're going to move along this platform. And let's try something else this time that could give us a little more height. Always explore your options. Try the fastest thing first. If it doesn't work, go for other methods that could work, but may take a little longer. So you can see I just started a pause over there. Clicked off A and start together at the same time. I advance 1 frame, start for 1 frame, check off A and keep A held. This is, as far as I know, the most way to get height out of this mech robot thing, whatever you want to call it. So if this doesn't make it, a couple other things I would explore would be making sure I'm jumping off the very last part of that gate back there that I can, because I want to start the jump as close to here as possible to have the most distance in the air and the most height. And that'll guarantee that you're kind of cutting it as close as a human really could if you happen to jump right off the very last spot of that platform that you really can jump off of. So this would kind of be the Hail Mary. It's looking very close. Let's see if we make it. It's very close. And this is kind of that critical point where you want to kind of assess if you think you're going to make it, maybe create another save point here. I'm going to use 6. Create a save point here. So you can explore with your options after this if we do make it. Let's see. So, okay, looks like we made it. I'm going to uncheck A to get back on the ground as soon as possible. And that white smoke there coming out means we definitely landed on top of this thing. So that's going to be another save state in my opinion. I'm going to override 6. And it looks like I really don't have much time, if any, on top of this thing to get off of it and go wherever I could go. And what I would do at this point, I want to think, what can I do with this? So I've made it on top of this object that I'm really not supposed to be on top of in the level. And what can I do to exploit that? So I am seeing a pulley up ahead in front of me, which takes a little bit of time for the animation to take effect and either go up that to the next tier of the level. So maybe by being up here, we can skip that. We can go to a different part of the level. So let's check off A and start together. And I'm going to try and land. It looks like there's a platform over here to the left. So I'm going to try and land on top of that. And I had enough time to get pause hover in, thankfully. And I'm going to see if I can make it over there to the left. I have my save state there just in case. I've programmed the angle to what I perceive to be the quickest, most direct path to this platform. And let's see if we make it. Let's see if we land on top of it. Okay, so as you can see, we did make it. If we hadn't made it, that's not to say that trying other things that you still can make it up there. If you don't succeed the first time, try every combination you can to jump at certain times, trying different combinations, whatever game you're trying to tool assist, exploit the things that you know exist in the game that can give you just maybe the little extra height you need to make it to another platform, or the correct angle you need to clip out of a part of the level, whatever it may be. So I made it up here. That's great. I'm going to save that. I'm going to overwrite 1. So this is kind of experimental. And just remember, I have those other save states back there if I need to go back. So I got my save state right here at 1. But I still have my other ones. So if I press W and then B, I can start from here if I want. I'd have to redo that part. That's okay. I have EB, which starts right here. And if this route that I'm exploring right now turns out to not be faster at all, or really have no beneficial purpose, I could always just start again right from here and do it the standard way that we know is the fastest route that's been found. But let's go back to this way and explore. So we're up here. I can see I have an object off to my right. I'm going to start aiming left to avoid that. And it looks like I turned. Not sure if I can maintain the most speed I could from that, so I'm going to try a little less aggressive angle and go back to that. And see if it looks like I'm going faster. I think that's slowing down there. So that looked a little faster. Now I know from experience that this will stop me. I'm going to try and jump over this little tube in the ground here. I'm going to try and do it with 1 frame of A. And what's nice about this game is when you're in the air, it doesn't matter too much how aggressive your angle is. Unlike if you're on the ground. So it looks like I just clipped over that really nicely while maintaining a lot of speed. So I'm going to save that as 1. I don't really see anything else I'd want to go back to that point as. And I don't want to overwrite my save states from much earlier than this if this route proves not to be faster. And we're going to kind of explore what's up here. I don't think I can make this right-hand turn fast enough to get back on this runway. So I'm going to try and aim in between these two carts here by frame advancing, pressing B, and just doing really nice, precise corrections of the joystick frame by frame, making that turn so I don't lose speed and momentum, but still keeping it precise. Try and get through these two carts, see if we can do it. Well, it looks pretty good. As long as we clear on the left, which it looks like we just barely did. So I'll save that as 2. Again, I don't want to overwrite that previous save state just in case this doesn't work out. I'm kind of going to look ahead at this point. In the standard route of this level, you would be trying to go right over here to the right of this G gate. You'd want to run down the runway to that point. Just from experience, I know there's a lot of clutter over here to the left. It wouldn't be faster to go that way. So I'm going to try and merge up with where the standard path would be at that point. So I'm going to do a quick hop up onto this runway, and looking ahead, I do see that there's this jet fighter right here. And we're moving pretty quickly forward. So I'm going to check off the B button to try and lock onto that and destroy it before I actually collide with it. And as soon as I see it lock on just like that, I'm going to let go of the B button. And I'm also going to correct right a little bit to try and get a more precise path lined up with that gate over there. So let's see if this thing blows up in time before I crash into it. It's going to be very close. So it looks like I just touched it a little bit. If this were a perfection run, not for demonstration purposes, I would definitely go back and fix that. But we're going to press along because we're almost at the end of this tutorial. Just a few more key things that we should go over. So as you can see, I'm approaching this G gate here, very precise angle. At this point, always remember to not forget to save state at certain points. I'm going to save this as 7, which is one I know I haven't used yet, just to keep it out there as an option just in case this worked and it was faster. And you can see I am getting to this G gate at right about 35:49. So again, if you want to know if that's good or not, comparing it to a world record run that is confirmed to be done by a human would be wise. If you're still not sure, you could always, like I said, go back to that original save state before all of this alternate route happened, and you could, program in the best and fastest route known at the time and do it very optimized and effectively and compare the times. So that being said, I'll leave it up to the viewers to decide which route is actually faster if you're a Sonic Adventure 2 Battle fan, and try and determine which route is actually faster. Kind of the frustrating thing about Dolphin and creating tool-assisted runs. The whole process of creating the run is kind of done in a linear fashion, which means, to be very specific, because this is important, you can only program the run in a linear fashion, which means you have to do it in order. You can start a run and stop it at a certain point, like right here where we are, for example, which I'm going to show you. You could do that, stop it, save the file here, and you would be able to go back to it, and you can continue creating the tool-assisted run from this point. But you would not be able to, let's say, edit a point in between the beginning and here at the end of as far as we got. You would not be able to go into any point in between that, modify that one point, and preserve the remaining parts of the run after that point. It has to be done in order, and that is a little bit of a frustrating aspect. There may be very complicated ways to go ahead in and pick and choose which points you want to edit, but it would be very, very in-depth and beyond the scope of what this tutorial is going to cover. So the most effective way for you as a beginner right now would definitely be to try and do it all in one setting. It can be very time consuming, as you can see. So if you don't have the time to do it all in one setting, you would want to do it as best as you can up to certain points, and then go back into the file, which we're going to go over right after this, and continue from where you left off. So let's say we ran out of time at this point. How do you save this? You're going to just completely X out of the window right here. It's a little scary, I know, but this is how you save the file. It's going to ask you if you want to stop the emulation. You say yes. And it's going to bring up this save box here. Let me get the controller out of the way. And you save it as whatever you want. You can see I made a little test tutorial file earlier. I'm going to save this one as tutorial 2. I'm going to save that. So now you're back in here. So let's say we did want to continue working on that file, or we just want to see what we've done up to that point so far. What you're going to want to do is go to Movie, and then Play Input Recording. And if you plan on editing this, you're going to want to have that task controller up as well. So we're just going to open the DTM file, as it's called, Dolphin TAS movie file, that we just created and saved. And it's going to start the game, and if all went well and everything works correctly, it's going to play the task run that we made up until that point. And then nothing really should happen after that point. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Let's view it, make sure it works properly, and take a look at everything that we've done so far. And like I said, you want this to start from the beginning. So it's going to start way back in the beginning, just as if you were turning it on. And take a look at this. It is going to run a little choppy because I have this screen capture software running. Okay, and then right before it gets to the point where you stop, press B to frame advance. And if you want to continue working on this past the point where you stopped, create a save state. I just press 1. And again, make sure that read-only mode is clicked off. And then load that save state, QB, for me. And here we are. And then you can continue working on it from that point. And just like before, you would exit out and save it once again. You could overwrite the old file or create a new one. I like to create a new one just in case something gets wrong with it, it gets desynced or whatever it may be. So that should be about it. As you can see, it's very time consuming. It does take a lot of practice and patience, but hopefully this will give you the tools you need to get started, make your first run of a game or a level. And once again, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to shoot them down below in the comments section. Thank you so much. Hope it helped.